Welcome to Talk Travel with Heather Tate, North Mississippi's podcast for savvy travelers. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is a weekly podcast that airs every Monday on the Shark 102.3 FM radio station based in Ripley, Mississippi, and is then released as a podcast. Travel advisor and travel enthusiast Heather Tate of Whimsical Destinations gives listeners expert travel tips curated through the years of personal and professional experience. By clicking subscribe, you'll have a new travel tip to add to your collection delivered to your podcast library every Monday. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is brought to you by Sun Bear Studio. Sun Bear Studio is a boutique recording studio in the heart of Ripley, Mississippi. When you record with us at Sun Bear Studio, we can mix, master, register, and publish your music, your podcast, or your family story. Email us when you're ready at sunbear@jc.media.
Good morning, Northeast Mississippi travelers. This is Heather with Talk Travel with Heather Tate, and I am so excited to share my adventures and tried and true tips with you, whether you are also a seasoned traveler, a hopeful traveler, or currently an armchair traveler, meaning you're going to follow along with us from home for now. This is our 178th episode of Talk Travel with Heather Tate. And this week, like I do every year, I'm going to do a travel recap. So of our entire year, I'm going to share with you some of my surprises, some of the things that I thought were going to happen that did, some things that I didn't know were going to happen that did, and some of my favorite moments along the way. So every year, I re-listen to my travel goals for that current year. So I went back this past week and I listened to what I thought was going to happen for 2025. And I like to see how far off or how close I was. The beginning of the year, I was pretty spot on. But then I found myself with some pretty big surprises along the way. One of the things I said last year is that I wanted to leave room for the unexpected. And I definitely did that. I found myself in the Caribbean a lot. Originally, I had planned to go to Jamaica only 3 times for the year. So going 5 times was not on my bingo card, but that did happen. And I found myself at some other islands throughout the Caribbean, including Curacao and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, along with the Bahamas. But then I also had some closer to home adventures, including not one, but 2 tree houses in the area. So whether it was in the Caribbean or local, some really incredible destinations here, or exactly what I was most looking forward to, going to Croatia and getting to spend a week on a yacht with a friend and my family, that it was an amazing year of travel. And so I want to recap some of those things with you, and I'm going to tell you my highlights along the way. Now, last year was our 5th year in a row to go to Jamaica in January. This year I will not be going to Jamaica in January, but I did just go a few weeks ago, and I'll be talking to you about that very soon. I want to tell you all about that trip because it was extremely special. But for last January, it was kind of a belated birthday trip. My birthday is in December. And so we celebrated the following month by going to Jamaica. In January, we went to one of our favorite resorts, Sandals Royal Plantation, which is a boutique, all-butler resort. It feels like you have your own private villa by the sea with, about 100 other guests. So it is a wonderful experience. But I also was able to talk Logan, my husband, into doing an excursion that I had wanted to do for years. Now, later on in the year, I totally made this up to him because I did an excursion that he had always wanted to do. But I have been wanting to go river tubing down the White River and go to the Blue Hole. So Logan has been adamant about not river tubing because he read one thing about there being a few little crocodiles in Jamaica and I couldn't get him in the water. And I assured him that the crocodiles were not in the White River. They were actually in the Black River, where I had taken my mother on a bamboo raft a couple of years before. So he finally relented and he went. And when I say that he had an amazing time, now he didn't jump off the waterfalls like I did, but he loved our hour-long adventure of river tubing. And there was one moment when we're floating down the stream or the river. It's absolutely beautiful. Everyone's having fun. We had guides. We didn't have to worry about getting lost or getting stuck, or going the wrong way on the river. They took really good care of us. They babied us as we're going through the river. And if I found myself stuck on the side, they would come and rescue me. I wouldn't even have to get off my tube. When I say it was one of the most relaxing things I've ever done, it was. But one of the coolest moments is right before we were going down a pretty good sized rapid on a tube. It's not whitewater rafting, thank goodness. But the people who were in the river were coming out to you in your tube, handing you a drink, whether it's a rum punch or a Coke or a Red Stripe. You would have your drink, and they'd say, "We'd meet up with you later at the end." And then you had your drink as you were floating. And I took a couple of sips. It was a little strong for me, so I handed it over to Logan, and he had a great time the rest of our floating down the river. It was fantastic. So that was one of those moments that it was really unexpected. You don't expect to meet someone in the river while you're on a tube that's just going to hand you a drink. So we were open for some unexpected moments, and we started off the year that way. Our next month though was our family Christmas trip, our belated family Christmas trip, where we did a 7-night cruise on the Royal Caribbean's Wonder of the Seas, which is one of the largest ships in the world. We love a Royal Caribbean cruise. It's especially fun with our boys. When they were both 12 and under, we would find a week where kids 12 and under sail free, and that happened to be that week. So this was a fantastic itinerary. I have an episode all about it, but one of our highlights was definitely snorkeling with turtles when we were in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and it was just right off the beach. So it's something then that both our boys could do. Christian, who is 8 at the time, is not the strongest swimmer/snorkeler yet. He is getting better, and he is getting more confident. So it was wonderful that he was able to go right off the beach, not have to do it very long, and was still able to snorkel with turtles. So that was a really fun moment for our family. In March, we stayed closer to home. We did a road trip to Charleston, South Carolina, which is a place that's very near and dear to my heart, my husband's heart, because that is where we honeymooned over 18 years ago. And one of the highlights for us there was kayaking in the marsh. Again, something I had to push Christian to do because he was a little unsure about it, and it ended up being everyone's favorite moment of the entire trip. So I don't like to be the mom that says, "I told you so," but sometimes I am that mom that said, "I told you so, trust me, we're going to have a great time." And, something a little calmer we did was we picnicked by these amazing live oaks covered in moss, and it was a calmer favorite moment of the trip. In April, one of our unexpected adventures was getting to go to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and it was an unexpected trip, and Logan and I were invited to go, and we had a wonderful time. Later on that month, we did a family road trip to Chattanooga where I got to meet up with my best friend, and we went to the Little Debbie Park, which is outside of Chattanooga. We did that along with Rock City, and it was so much fun, going somewhere that I went, Rock City is somewhere I went as a child, and I got to share that with my boys for the first time. And so Chattanooga makes a wonderful weekend getaway, and sometimes the places that are so close we overlook. And, we think that all adventures have to be these big, grand experiences, and they don't. Sometimes they're in our backyard. Kind of like, in April, we went to Aladdin Treehouse in Coleman, Alabama. It was like being in Agrabah. And for someone who grew up loving Disney movies, loving Disney's Aladdin, it was like stepping into, 1,000 Arabian Nights. Another local surprise was we went to a Pickwick Lake House in Iuka for London's 13th birthday. We have some friends who rent their lake house in Pickwick, and it was a blast. Big surprise was getting to ride on jet skis one day where we went to lunch, and it was so much fun. I'm glad that we had the whole month of June open, because I knew that we wanted to do something to celebrate London's birthday, but we were saving up because we had a big month planned for July, so I wanted it to be something close to home, and it worked out to be the perfect adventure. So if you're already thinking ahead for next year, and you want to be somewhere closer to home, look back at our Facebook group and just type in Pickwick Lake House, and you're going to find all sorts of information about that. Now, July was a big month for us. I really think I was away more than I was home that month. We went to Croatia. The entire trip was a highlight of the year. So I've talked about it in multiple episodes. So I'm not going to elaborate, except for it ended up being my family's favorite trip of the year. They will say it was their most memorable trip. And it's something that we will never forget. And it's also, paved the way to know that we want to do some smaller vessels and explore more and do river cruises, because we loved that experience of having less people on a ship and being able to pull right up into the heart of the locations. So that has been a game changer for us. I also was able to go to the Bahamas with my mother-in-law. It was our first out of the country trip, just the two of us, and we had an amazing time. And then the next week, I got to celebrate my mother's 80th birthday in Jamaica with a girls' trip. So one of the things that I said for the year is I wanted to start a group, a travel group for women who either their significant others didn't want to travel as much, or they were solo travelers, or they, just wanted to make some new connections, make some new friends, and travel with a group of women. And so we have a group called Whimsical Women. And we used my mother's 80th birthday as a great kickoff for that group. And since then, we have several other women's group trips that are on the books for 2026. But it was a very memorable trip for my mother, and I loved being able to spend that special time celebrating her. Jamaica is the place for celebrations for me, and especially in 2025, because a few weeks later, I returned to Jamaica for Logan's 40th birthday, where we went to Rose Hall. I told you that I made it up to him for making him go with me on river tubing, and Rose Hall is a place in Jamaica he had always wanted to go. So I made sure that we made his birthday trip all about doing what he wanted to do. So we went there. In September, I was able to go to Curacao, where it was for a wedding event, and I had the most amazing time at Sandals Royal Curacao. I got to go shopping downtown with one of my closest friends in the industry, who we got to spend some quality time together, because we spend more time together in the Caribbean than we do at home, because she lives in Texas. So I was able to do that. We had a beach party one night that was just all about celebrating love, and another year of destination weddings and special events that we helped plan. And so it was a lot of fun. And a few weeks later, we went to Universal as a family. That was our big fall trip, where we went to Epic Universe. It was as epic as I hoped it would be, and then some. So the boys would say that has definitely been a big highlight of their year as well. Okay, a few more things. Big surprise happened end of September. And we ended up going back to Jamaica because we went with our friends, and they were going for a week, and we love beaches and a grill. Was not on our books to go again, but we decided, we wanted to go, and it was amazing. And I'm so glad I went, because it was just a few weeks before Hurricane Melissa would pass right by Negril. And Jamaica is very special to me. It's my home away from home. And so I got to spend a week there, and coming back just a few, weeks before it hit, it just resonated with me that I needed to do all I could to help with the rebuilding and with tourism in Jamaica. And I'll have more to tell you about that in just a few weeks. So I'm going to wrap this up really quickly with, in November, we went to the Tishomingo Treehouse. I love that place, and I know you guys love that place. My number one, local destination for two for you to go to. We went to Branson for our early Christmas trip, and our niece went with us, and our highlight there was biking in Dogwood Canyon. It's one of my favorite days. In December, yes, you're right, I went back to Jamaica, and there's so much more to be said about that. But then we had a family trip to Gatlinburg, because we do experiences for our Christmas trips. And so that was something that we wanted to give our boys, and we spent time with the grandparents going there. So we had an amazing time. So to wrap up 2025, one of the things I did not get to that I said that I was going to get to was Mentone, Alabama. Mentone, it's going to happen. I plan on coming for you. I'm not going to say it's 2026 because I feel like if I say that, then I won't end up going. If I don't say that I'm going, then I think I have a better chance of it happening. I also said that I wanted to be present with my boys, and I feel like I did that really well sometimes, especially when we were in the destinations. Sometimes on the journey itself, especially those long car drives, I'm working and the boys are doing schoolwork. And so sometimes we are not taking advantage of the journey as much as we are the destination. And I think it's a whole process. So that's something I want to change in 2026. I want to be present not only when I'm there, but to make sure that I'm present along the way as well, and not look at our car ride or our plane ride as just a means to an end, but to find ways to make sure that I'm making that part of the whole experience. And for girls' trips, I think we really did it well in 2025. It was a great balance of family trips, girls' trips, and Logan and I were able to get to Jamaica and some tree houses, just us two. That's all the time we have for this week's episode of Talk Travel with Heather Tate, and this is it for 2025. It was an epic year. I hope that it has been an amazing year for you as well, filled with lots of love and adventures. See you next year.
This show is made possible by JC Media, LLC in Ripley, Mississippi. JC Media owns the Shark 102.3 Classic Rock FM radio station where the show is hosted, and Sun Bear Recording Studio where the interviews are recorded. We need your feedback and support. If you listen to the podcast on a player like iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Amazon Music, please subscribe to the show and leave us a review. We also have an email in which you can share your feedback. That email is theshark1023@gmail.com. Subscribe to our podcast on your favorite app or stream episodes online at shark1023.com/podcasts. Today's episode was produced by Melinda Marsalis. It was edited by Rick Williams and engineered by Chris Marsalis. The podcast technician is Joyce Grady.